From the AP, Democratic congressional candidate Pat Dugan indicted over ICE protests outside Chicago. And for those of you that saw the thumbnail on this episode of Timcast IRL, that's a real photo that she posted of her, and she is running for office. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of thirsty young guys that are like, I don't care about politics. They're going to vote for it. Guys, she's not going to date you. It's just not going to happen. Anyway, here's a story. A Democratic congressional candidate in Illinois has been accused of blocking a federal agent's vehicle during September protests outside an immigration enforcement building in suburban Chicago, according to court documents unsealed Wednesday. The felony indictment filed last week by a special grand jury charges Pat Dugan and 5 others of conspiring to impede an officer. Quote, "This is a political prosecution and a gross attempt at silencing dissent, a right protected under the First Amendment." Actually, if they're going to quote her, I'll just play the video straight from her, and this is her response.
My name is Pat Dugan. I'm running for Congress in the 9th District of Illinois, and the Department of Justice is charging 6 people, including myself, with federal crimes for exercising our First Amendment rights near ICE's Broadview Processing Center.
I just got to pause because I don't let him just lie. No, it's because you obstructed law enforcement, which you're not allowed to do, but continue.
This is a political prosecution.
It's not.
And a gross attempt to silence dissent.
No.
A right protected under the First Amendment.
It's not.
This case is a major push by the Trump administration to criminalize protest and punish anyone who speaks out against them. That's why I'm going to fight these unjust charges, but I need your help to do it. As I and others have exercised our First Amendment rights, ICE has hit, dragged, thrown, shot with pepper balls, and tear gassed hundreds of protesters, simply because we had the gall to say that masked men coming into our communities, abducting our neighbors, and terrorizing us cannot be our new normal. And because Chicago doesn't back down from bullies in masks who tear gas our neighborhoods, this administration has resorted to weaponizing the federal justice system to scare us into silence. But we're not going to be silent. The Trump administration wants you to be afraid of speaking out against it and its anti-democratic power grabs. And there are plenty of reasons to be afraid right now, but we have to overcome that fear. This case targets our rights to protest, speak freely, and associate with anyone who disagrees with the government. And while we have seen the unhinged and unlawful tactics this administration has used against the American public, it's important to remember they're doing this because they are scared. They are wrong. And they know they are on the wrong side of history.
Who is they, though?
Yeah,
we cannot diminish ourselves in the face of these attacks. That's why we have to unite and stand up for humanity.
Because she is anti-Israel. She hangs a keffiyeh in her room. And I'm going to tell you exactly why she's not going to win. First, I'll refute what she's saying. Let me play this video for you guys. Here's her being pushed back because she was blocking a vehicle. That's her.
I'm back at the Broadview.
So there are other videos of this, but I'm going to say this in reference to her. The reason why she can't win, there's 2 big reasons. Notice all the jump cuts in that video. And I mean this not derisively. If you want to run for office, you need to be able to talk and express yourself. You need wit. You got to go quick. You can't jump cut every 5 seconds. I got to say, as somebody who did nonprofit fundraising, making me the expert in the case, if you can't articulate your mission statement in 30 seconds, bing, bang, boom, you ain't going to get it. You ain't going to get it. But I got to add, the second reason is that she is an anti-Israel candidate running in the most Jewish district in the country.
Not even just that, but there was very little in the way of actually showing performative emotion in what she was doing there. There was very little in the way of maybe it's just because we speak on camera every day, so that it's part of the gig to understand how to, when you have a point you want to articulate to people, you have to be able to look at a camera, you have to be able to make people understand what you feel about a specific topic. And if it's something as personal to her as supposedly having her First Amendment rights violated, while, of course, leaving out the very, very important part where she broke the law to do so, if she can't do that without getting through 30 seconds of time, then she's going to have a very hard time convincing voters who are not going to only see her in clips, but see her in person.
But I mean, young liberals are far left. So she has that going for her, as the next generation of Democrat is going to be, I don't want to be too one dimensional and say communist, but communist.
Yeah. I completely disagree. The reality is, at the core of their worldview,
is communism. It is radical far leftism. Once you accept those premises, even if you don't want to take them to their furthest, most radical conclusion, you will slowly end up approaching that position over time. And that's effectively what's happened. They've just gotten closer to that end state.
Is this an issue that is something that's come up a lot in Philadelphia with immigration law and things like that?
So the issues that I have with immigration is what Krasner's policies were in Philadelphia. Krasner's policies prior to President Trump and what's going on with ICE today was that if you were a person with bad papers and you committed a crime, you walk into a bank, you give the teller a note that says, I am robbing you, give me all your effing money. Larry Krasner, when he found out that this individual actually was here illegally, Larry Krasner downgraded a bank robbery to a possession of an instrument of crime.
What?
Now, no, this is what he's doing.
Insane.
What he was doing in Philly. We had another case where a guy who was illegal was dealing drugs, selling 80 bundles of heroin. Well, Larry Krasner became Jesus Christ. He made that case of 80 bundles of heroin. He downgraded it to possession of marijuana. He thinks he could change heroin to possession of marijuana, dealing heroin to possession of marijuana. These are the reasons why it's annoying to me that you got to treat everybody fairly under the law. You break the law, whether you're a citizen or a not citizen, the law should apply to you fairly. And Larry Krasner was not doing that.
Yeah. Well, look, let me back up Pat here, because I think people always think it's hyperbole, right? People think that like this, hey, we'll be soft on crime is just a Republican talking point. It's not. And look, I come from libertarian world, and I found this drift in libertarian world where people would think, well, we want to fix the criminal justice system, which I'm a big fan of doing that. But when somebody tries to rob a bank, it's a little bit of a different story, right? When somebody has that amount of drugs and what their intent is, it's not always the solution to try to prove that, hey, listen, we're not going to be like the Republicans that are tough on crime. We're not going to be backing the blue. So you become the opposite. It's that slow drift you talked about where it's like all of a sudden, if you're not backing the blue, what's the opposite of that? Well, police are the enemy.
Yeah.
And it's like this dichotomy where, no, there's probably a rational place you can be. The left does not believe in rational, sane thought right now.
Well, and I love when the Democrats go, we never really believed in defunding the police now that they've seen the polling data, and they clearly did believe in it, and they were clearly talking about it. They're like, well, we never believed in defunding the police. We just don't have anything good to say about the police ever under any circumstances, and we always think they're wrong about everything they do.
Well, isn't that like
why is that so hard to understand?
The Mott and Bailey arguments are like, well, no, we were talking about reform, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about getting rid of the police. We're talking about reforming the police. Of course, that's after you prove how stupid the initial statement was. The most nefarious part about statements like this is that, like you're talking about with people who are in the country illegally and they're selling drugs and they're selling drugs or they're robbing banks. But when she's talking about it, she's talking about your friends and your neighbors who are being pulled out of their homes. So one of the most nefarious aspects of illegal immigration is that you allowed them to become your friends and neighbors. And for the average everyday citizen, it is horrific to see somebody who you've grown close to in a personal way pulled from their house and removed from the country. But that's not the point. The point is that they live amongst these people, and the prior administration did a very, very good job in helping to destroy a good part of the country by letting in people who allow this to happen.
Let me pull this up. Yes, we mean literally abolish the police because reform won't happen. It's a New York Times op-ed. You know what's happening with the immigration stuff in the United States is it's the graphic novel I Am Legend. Have you guys ever read it? The movie?
Well, the original, it was actually a book before a graphic novel, or it was a novella. It was a short story.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
The movie is trash. Don't watch it. It has nothing to do with the story. Simple version. I bring it up quite a bit, but for those that don't know, for these fine gentlemen, it's about a guy who hunts vampires. And the vampires are rapidly spreading. Vampire bites somebody, become a vampire. Eventually, everyone in the country is a vampire, and he's the last human, and they arrest him for killing people, and they lock him up, and he realizes that now that every single person is a vampire, he's sentenced to death for the murder of people, and he realizes when he dies, he will be the monster of legend that lurked around while the children slept and killed them in their beds. So the point is, you being the vampire hunter only matters when your civilization exists and you're fighting the legendary monster minority. If more and more illegal immigrants come into this country, as the point Brett was making, then you are going to have whole swaths of states being non-citizens. And when you then try to enforce your laws, they will say, you are the evil dictator, come to destroy our homes and our lives. And if they take over and win this fight, these people, ICE agents, will be put in prison and be called Gestapo Nazis for breaking up families.
And there will be no land acknowledgements, by the way, if this country's taken from us. They're not going to be like, it was the noble Europeans who wants to live here. Like, no, none of that.
And that is directly proven by these New York City mayoral polls that show that foreign-born New Yorkers versus American-born New Yorkers, it is like 100% the foreign-born are supporting Mamdani, and the American-born are supporting Cuomo or Sliwa. I mean, it kind of proves the point, right? Like, once you commit, how do you push back? I mean, you're obviously talking about ICE, but you're right. Like, at a certain point, what's the path back, right? What is the path? You know, once enough folks are here, it's tough to kind of reverse it.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose it's a difficult question to ask you, Judge Dugan, because I don't think you've seen the videos of Kat. So in a light sense, I think the answer is relatively easy. I would ask you, do you think she should have been charged? Of course, the predicate there is, have I seen the video? Do I know what she's done? But if it's true that she was blocking vehicles from ICE trying to do their job and obstructing these officers, do you think she should have been charged?
So I think anybody that interferes with official law enforcement, yes, they need to be detained and arrested after you do the investigation. And that goes from whether it's a sheriff in a small town, a police officer in a big city who's actually doing a car stop. You got to let the law enforcement do their job. Now, you'll have your right, but you need to step away so they can do their job. If you want to protest it, don't interfere with law enforcement officers. In fact, our district attorney, you know, there's this talk about the National Guard might come to Philadelphia, and that's Mr. Krasner is out there all the time saying it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump. Well, he actually told our citizens in Philadelphia to go harass the National Guard if they come to our city. Now, my problem with that is the National Guard is actually us. It's our citizens. In Philadelphia, it's the guy from Southwest. It's our neighbor. It's a part-time job. And what they're doing is they're giving an order, and they salute the governor or the president, and they do their job. They are not our enemy. We need to go ahead and fight whatever you don't agree with through the courts, through the governor, through the president. But those National Guards, men and women, are doing their duty. They're us. I was an Army reservist. They're just doing their duty. Don't go up and harass them. And Krasner actually said, go harass these National Guard. Yet when a young man went up and tried to take some photos of Mr. Krasner with his phone, he literally pushed him away, pushed his phone away. I mean, so it just is ludicrous that he has this double standard.
Yeah. Do you think that the National Guard should be deployed into Philadelphia?
I think there should be some cooperation. I don't think we need the National Guard right now. What we need is we need somebody to cooperate with the mayor of Philadelphia, Sherelle Parker, who's a Democrat who was elected saying, let's enforce the criminal code. She has a forward-thinking police commissioner by the name of Bethel. They're working together to try to solve the issues in our city. They don't have the third partner, and that's the district attorney of Philadelphia, who refuses to hold violent criminals accountable. This is a fact. People that live in Philly know that. Philadelphia needs a district attorney to assist the mayor. Now, I will talk about the National Guard was in our city a couple of years ago. And what they did was they calmed down all the riots that we had a few years ago, the civil unrest, whatever people want to call it. But when they put those National Guardsmen on the streets in Kensington, in North Philadelphia, it calmed down. There were our neighbors that came to calm down. So it did work. We should not need them if the district attorney would do his job.
See, but here's the crazy thing. What Pat is saying is what any Democrat would have said 25 years ago. Right? Like, it's not like he's saying anything here that is irrational, that is far right. This was the Democrat. I mean, these used to be pretty bipartisan races.
Aren't you a registered Democrat?
I am still a registered
What
Democrat.
happened? No, but see, that's the point. It's like not even 25 years ago, 10 years ago.
15 years ago at the
What
most.
happened to the Democratic Party where you are now, you ended up as the Republican candidate, but you're a Democrat?
You know what? There are still a lot of Democrats like me. The far left.
Democrat voters. Let me
Yes.
clarify this because it's
Okay.
something, right? Because the leaders,
Yes.
this is what I find. The leaders are they're persuaded by the 20% of the radical activists, the radical donors. But I think you're right, because we found that in a lot of the voters we talked to, the voters, there's still quite a few of you.
Yes, there are. And again, because of the closed primary system, we get that radical candidate like Larry Krasner backed by Soros because he was able to dump a ton of money in. And then those former prosecutors and those candidates who wanted to be smart on crime. Let's do these restorative justice like Veterans Court and whatnot, but be tough on violent criminals. They couldn't get the traction because they didn't have the $1 million like Krasner got from George Soros. There's that whatever the hell he's trying to do to our country. He's destroying places
Can
like
we
Philadelphia.
dive in on that? Because I always feel like it's easy to say, that, not you, but when people talk about Soros and like what motivates him, right? Because he is giving to all of these people that are extremely soft on violent crime. We're not talking about, parking tickets.
No.
What is his motivation? Like, I mean, I have answers, and I think, he's just trying to really take over, but is it purely evil why he's doing this? Like, what gets him going?
I don't know what his motivation are, but you can hold a city hostage by not enforcing laws on violent criminals because the citizens who obey the law are kind of at the behest of the police who won't. I mean, even if the police make the arrest, it doesn't matter if the prosecutor refuses to follow through and do his job and the citizens just want to go to work and get home every day safely. A lot of people are stuck because they may have enough to pay their mortgage, but they don't have enough to leave if they want to leave. That's assuming that they even have a job that would allow them to do that, say they're working remote. But if you have a company in that city, if you're part of the income class that actually contributes to the to the wealth of the city, you're stuck there and you're held hostage by prosecutors who won't prosecute cases.
I can't. Oh, sorry. I don't know about Soros's life specifically. I haven't looked into him too much, but I do know about the destructive policies that he's helped promote in this country by putting soft on crime DAs in different locations and funding them. What I genuinely believe happens is when someone participates in activities in their personal lives that disfigures them spiritually, either some form of sexual perversity or like ending the life of an unborn child through abortion, harming innocents in any way, and they don't repent, they don't turn to Christ, and they have to be set in their ways. The only option for them is to actually hate things that are good and beautiful and want to see them destroyed because it reminds them that there's something in the world besides the crime that infests their conscience every single day, the things that they've done wrong that they don't want to come to terms with. And so when they see an innocent person get hurt by a criminal, they sympathize with the criminal instead of the innocent person because they haven't come to terms with their own misdeeds.
Or misery loves company.
That's and those are the same phenomena, really.
If they can justify the criminal acts or the evil, it makes them feel better about themselves.
Exactly. It makes them feel better about their own conscience.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.